let's take a look at one of my past projects that I color graded in the past. Last year, I went to Italy on a trip with my parents, and this is a perspective from someone who isn't an expert colorist and just wants to have a nice looking grade, figure it out as you go. I start here with 2 drone shots from the Mavic 2 Pro, and these are all shot in log. And then I was also using a Sony a7S III this trip, and I also shot it in log. So you'll see that throughout the film, it intertwines in between the footage. So it's important to be able to have like a cohesive look, because that's like the biggest thing that I care about in my films. I have this adjustment layer for the Mavic, and we're gonna go ahead into the effect controls panel. I'm gonna go ahead and activate that layer. Here's the Dehancer program that I already found the final look that I enjoyed. So from the log to the end, but how did I get there, right? Type in Dehancer here, drag that onto the adjustment layer. You can also double click it if you would like. But the cool thing about this is, so in this input section here, you have Rec 709. So if you have a camera that isn't shooting log, or if you're not shooting log for something, you can just start right off the bat in Rec 709 if you want to add like halation, film grain, or bloom without giving a full grade. But for the purpose of this, we'll go into matching the Mavic log with my Sony log to create that cohesive look. Here you choose the camera, and you can see it has this entire Rolodex of options that you can go for. The Mavic 2 Pro D-Log, already that looks super cool. And now get into the film aspect of it, of choosing the different film stocks that you want. There's so many. So I know the first time I looked at it, it was kind of overwhelming. I spent time just going through the different film stocks that are available. For this, wanted like a more warm, loving, like nostalgic feel. You can see all these different like options, like even this black and white here. There's different types of black and white with different tints, and there's so many different vibes. I really like Kodak Gold 200 for this film. I'll go over to my Sony footage now. I'm gonna go ahead and just activate this adjustment layer. And I did the same thing to start. I chose my camera, a7S III, Kodak Gold to match that film stock. Dehancer uses the same film profile to color it. It's already gonna almost like match the grade over those log profiles, which is super cool, no matter what camera you're at. And of course, we'll have to go in and like do small tweaks to each individual clip. I'm gonna go ahead and do that for the rest of the film. All I did here was go through each clip, separate them out, and where there was a drone, I copy and pasted the drone setting to that adjustment layers accordingly throughout for the Sony footage as well. I'm a big fan of film grain, halation, and bloom in my films when it serves a purpose. This is a great way to do it. It starts out with the 35mm ISO 250. This is a good example of a shot to use this effect on to see it, because there's buildings in the shadows, and then there's also buildings in the highlights, or like where the sun's hitting. And zoom in on this shot just to emphasize what is going on here. Let's turn off film grain, halation, and bloom right now. So let's enable it so you can see how right here you can see the film grains added, and I think that's a really nice look. So if we were to go back out before and after, you can see how it also mutes the highlights a little bit just naturally. Let's add halation. So now you see this red like RGB type split thing going on, so it gives it that filmic look even more. Let's add bloom, and this is naturally what you would usually get like if you had a black promise filter, a glimmer glass, or like some sort of filter that causes a bloom. This way you don't have to necessarily have those filters on to get this effect, now that you can do this in post with a program. Well, going into this next shot, very similar conditions because I shot it right after I did this drone shot. And here I'll do the same thing. You see how it kind of makes that difference right there. It kind of just makes it a little bit softer. And then we'll add halation. You see the red come in, and now we'll add the film grain. This clip in particular, I was inside the train, and so I was shooting through the window to get this shot, and it was a rainy day. And so there's a lot of haziness going on, like through the window plus the rain. So I needed to bring down the shadows and the blacks to show more of this scene or add in some contrast, right? Going into the film developer portion of this program, I had contrast boost set to 40, but originally, if you reset it to null, it's 0. And what I really like is that there's this slider that you can open up and you can just change it. So like you can even add less contrast, so it makes it even more hazy, right? But we don't want that for this shot. So I just went full, if you want to see the intensity, like super saturated, super deep colors and things like that. Too much for what I'm going for. So before at 0 and then at 40, it just brings in that nice contrast for you instead of having to manually go and make an S curve like you normally would. In this clip, when it first started, it was a little bit dark here. I wanted to bring up the exposure. I thought one looked pretty nice because I still wanted that little moody vibe. And yeah, so I just continue to do this through the film, and I'll play both films side by side so you can see the difference between the old grade and the new grade. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to watch this, and I'm grateful for you. Have a great day.
Most amazing trip ever!
Oh my God.